You're tuned in to Philly's #1 college radio station, WHIP.
We're back. Philly's #1 college radio station, WHIP. 215-204-9449 is the number if you want to call and hang with us. My next guest, he does it all. New York, Philadelphia, and around the country. You can hear him on WIP, WFAN, and the CBS Sports Network. And that's Jody McDonald. Jody, Zach Gelb, Chase Sr., and Haley Condon. How are you?
How are you guys? I'm good today.
Well, we're doing great. We were talking about this to start the shows. We just got started about 18 minutes ago. But that Masters golf yesterday was just absolutely incredible. And you just saw the clash between Cabrera and Scott. Just recap the Masters for me as you watched it yesterday in your house.
Mano a mano, two guys going at it, making big shots. I kind of feel for Jason Day because he's the only one out of the top three who struggled coming home and didn't make the playoffs. But a playoff is so much better when both guys are playing well going into it. And Scott makes the huge birdie on 18, and Cabrera matches him with the huge birdie on 18. When you've got that much momentum built into a playoff, and then they both had shots to win it on the first playoff hole, and then for Scott to make the putt that he made on 18, and it's kind of fitting that on 10, kind of fitting for Adam Scott to finally break his major jinx. He had been so close of late to get the job done against another classy guy like Cabrera. Is about as good as golf gets. I'd say it's a pretty good way to kick off the major season for the golf year 2013.
I kind of compared it to when Joe Flacco won the Super Bowl this year because Flacco's been competing at an elite level for many years, and he's been getting to the playoffs. He outdueled Tom Brady 2 years ago in the AFC Championship game. And then you see Adam Scott, who's been so close to greatness, and he wins yesterday. It's just a great storyline. It would have been a great storyline either way, even if Cabrera did get his second green jacket yesterday.
Either way, you're right, because they're both, A, great golfers, and B, class individuals, and they handled it well, the competition back and forth between the two of them. And I like your comparison. Flacco had been to the dance many times, just didn't get the prom queen to go home with him in any of them prior to this past year, and that's exactly what Adam Scott did yesterday.
Jody McDonald joins us on the hotline, Philly's #1 college radio station, WHIP. And Jody, let's get to the Sixers. Doug Collins, he is going to quit at the end of the year. He's going to walk away. Where do you think the Sixers go from here? It's kind of going to be entering, in my opinion, a dark era for Philadelphia 76ers basketball because I just don't see how they bring Bynum back.
Could be. A lot is to be determined with the 76ers. I don't know that I would label it as Doug Collins quitting. He's walking away, that's for sure, because he's got a year left on his contract that looks for all the world like he's not going to be back. But believe me, there's going to be a negotiated settlement. He's going to get a good chunk of his contract that he's got due, $4.5 million for next year, going out the door. And my read on it is that the Sixers started the ball rolling with this. That Bob Ford of the Inquirer had the article in the last week that the Sixers were hoping that Doug Collins walked away, and Collins probably got his dander up and said, oh, really, they don't want me? Well, they don't necessarily have to have me, but they're going to pay me if they don't want me around here anymore. So there's probably a negotiation that's either done or very close to being done, and there'll probably be an announcement shortly. I don't quite understand the divorce. You guys will remember 5 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago, Adam Aaron, one of their owners, did the publicity media tour and stopped on the radio stations and the TV stations and the like and said, Doug Collins is our guy, and we have faith in Doug Collins, and Doug Collins is as good a coach as there is out there. I don't know what changed or transpired in those 5 or 6 weeks that could drastically change an opinion like that. Either you love the guy or you don't. I don't know how they fall out of love as quickly as they do. And this is a bit of a key hire, as you say. This is a team with only 1 or 2 pieces in place. They've got a lot of building to do, and the next coach is going to be an important part of that. And I think they're going to have a tough time finding a guy who's better than Doug Collins. So I'm not sure I agree with this separation of the Sixers and their coach right now.
Jody, Chase Sr. here. First of all, thanks for joining us. I'm a huge fan of your work that you do for WIP. When you look at this whole Sixers situation, obviously the Andrew Bynum trade did not work out in the Sixers' favor. Do you believe that was the initial downfall and just that's how the cards just kind of collapsed on Doug Collins and the Sixers organization?
Absolutely. For the magnitude of that trade, what they gave up, how much they built the team around what Bynum was supposed to be, and then to have it end up with him not playing a minute for the 76ers. Yeah, the season was probably doomed for failure. We didn't know it because we kept being told that he could be coming back, and he's coming close, and the rehab is going well.
Right.
Oh, he went bowling, and he blew out his other knee. There's just one fallback after another, and the season was doomed. The only ones who know behind closed doors how involved Doug Collins was in the Bynum trade are the participants, and they've done a pretty good job not leaking that out. When Doug moves away, maybe he'll tell us. Maybe he'll tell us the truth. Maybe he'll tell us his side of the story. Who knows? But unless Collins was the driving force behind it, and he was pushing, and he wanted to do it, he's the guy who actually gave the last shove to get the thing done, well, then how do you hold him accountable for this season?
Right.
The season blew up because of Bynum's knee, not because of Doug Collins' coaching. So the only ones who know for sure are the main guys down there at Sixer Way, and if Collins wasn't the guy, he was just being consulted and was along for the ride, and that others were pushing harder for this trade, then I think they're moving away from him is unfair to Collins.
Obviously, the Sixers gave up so much talent to bring in a guy like Andrew Bynum, and the free agent moves that they made were designed around the presence of Andrew Bynum. Say he was healthy. I know it's a little bit far-fetched. Say he is healthy, and he's averaging 20 and 10 like he did last year with the Los Angeles Lakers. Where do you see the Sixers team falling?
Oh, I think they would have been a playoff team. Could they have won the division? Probably not. The Knicks had a darn good season, and even with a better Sixer team, I don't know that knocks them from the top spot in the East. But I thought the Sixers were as good, if not better, than the Nets coming into the season. I thought the Celtics were still good and had a chance to win the division. I thought it was going to be a great three-way race between the Knicks and the Celtics and the Sixers for the division if Bynum was healthy. So we'd be looking at a team in the playoffs. We remember they made the playoffs last year, won a round with a little help from injuries to Derrick Rose and Joakim Noah. But maybe even more impressive was the fact that they took the Celtics to 7 games in the next series.
Yep.
That, to me, showed that this was a team that was building and on the rise and had some good young pieces in place. Well, all those pieces came apart like Humpty Dumpty when they make the deal and Andrew Bynum shows up, doesn't show up and doesn't play a game for 1 more year. So I think it would have been a completely different season if Bynum had been out.
Jody Mac joins us, Philly's #1 college radio station, WHIP. Zach Gelb, Chase Sr., and Haley Condon here with you on this gloomy Monday. And, Jody, you look at the Sixers now, the big question is, what do they do in the offseason? Andrew Bynum, do they bring him back? I think they'd be ludicrous to bring him back with his knees. What do you see happening with the big man? Does he come back? And if not, I would have to imagine you build off Drew Holiday and his success this year.
There's only one way that you can bring Andrew Bynum back.
Cheap deal.
If you're asking me, do I think it's going to happen, the answer is no, because I think someone in the NBA will push the envelope a little further. If he comes back for a reasonable number, less than certainly a max deal for $8, $9, $10 million, and he's willing to do a 1-year deal. If he comes back, he's healthy, he plays great, there's no issues, well, then you retain the ability to pay him more, do a longer contract, and then lock him up long-term after that. But he's got to go through the entire season. He's got to prove that he is 100% healthy. If he doesn't, then there's no way you do the deal. I think somebody in the league will probably give him 2 years. I think somebody in a better position than the 76ers will have that flexibility and will do it, and they might be as foolish as the Sixers turned out to be this season by making that move. The Sixers have continued to maintain that they still like Bynum and still think that Bynum can be a superstar NBA center, but after what this season turned out to be, if you do anything more than a 1-year deal with Andrew Bynum, you're just killing yourself.
Well, let's do a little football. The Eagles, they will pick 4th in this year's draft coming up next week. It sounds like from what I'm hearing, it's either going to be a quarterback or a lineman. Geno Smith, if he's selected at number 4, what do you think he could bring to this Eagles team?
I like Geno Smith, and I think he's the best quarterback in the draft. I don't think he merits going at the 4th pick of the draft, so if you believe in you have to draft for value, then you probably have to pass on a guy. I'm not so sure. I think the Eagles could very well go for a speed pass rusher. If the kid from Oregon, Jordan falls to them, I think they could take him. I think if Sharif Floyd from Florida falls down, although he doesn't seem to be as good a fit for the 3-4 defense, the Eagles continue to refuse to tell us that they're going to a 3-4, that they're going to play a multifaceted defense, which will have 3-4, 4-3, 4-3 under looks and the like. If that's the case, then Floyd should be an option for him because, personally, I think he's the best defensive player available in the draft. possibility if somehow Joko falls to him at 4, then I think you're right. I think they'll snap him up immediately. But I don't know that it's going to be an offensive player. All the moves they've made so far off season, almost all the moves they've made, have been to upgrade the defense. And Chip Kelly will get his fair share of offensive talent in the draft. I'm just not sure it's going to be with the first-round pick.
Yeah, drafting Geno Smith at 4, in my opinion, is a bit of a reach.
Agreed.
If you can pinpoint a player out there, though, Jody, that you would like to see the Eagles pick, who would that be?
I say Floyd. Sharif Floyd, the defensive lineman from Florida, bring the homeboy home.
He's a local guy, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, George Washington High School standout. I think he'll be the impact player of this upcoming NFL draft. The kid Ansah from BYU is probably the most physically gifted. A lot of people are trying to compare him to JPP from the Giants, that his non-extensive college football career makes him an upside guy, but the upside is so good that you have to take a flyer on him. The kid from Oregon could very well be. The problem with the Eagles picking him is if they take him, everyone will say Chip Kelly took him because he knew him and because he had him in Oregon. Well, guess what? He deserves to be a top 4 pick. So I won't knock the pick or mock the pick if they do, but I'm sure some will. I think there's a very good chance they take a defensive player, somebody who can get to the quarterback. That's what the NFL has become, still a quarterback league. So I think the Eagles could very well go there. If Floyd is there and they pass him, I think they could be making a mistake.
When you look at that Chip Kelly hire, obviously it was a bit risky, but his psychological and play calling in general in the game of football is pretty intriguing to me. What are your thoughts on that hire?
Didn't love it when they did it. The track record is what the track record is of college coaches coming into the NFL, and if I were to hire a college coach, I would want him to be someone who's had pro experience. Those who love to hire are trying to compare it to taking Harbaugh out of Stanford and the success he's had with San Francisco. Well, that's not really hiring a college coach. He played in the league for a decade and a half, and he spent several years on the Raiders staff before he moved.
Family ties, too.
Stanford. I look at him as a pro guy who did a short little internship in college and then got back to the league that he belonged. Mm-hmm. Chip Kelly's never spent a day in the National Football League. The only experience he's had is going to a couple guys' camps and share some wisdom with a couple coaches, including an impressive guy like Belichick. So he does have respect around the league, but he's got absolutely no experience. So I thought it was a reach when they did it. Sometimes these things work, sometimes they don't. I would tend to guess that it will go one way or the other, that either he will set a new standard for college coaches, and if they can make the jump, and they can take their act into the NFL, or he will be another Steve Spurrier and go by the board, and people will give up on it quickly, and it'll be years again before we see a guy without pro experience jumping into the pro ranks. I'd be surprised if he landed in the middle. I think he will be a boom or bust as the Eagles head coach.
Now, what's your leeway with him? Do you give him 2 years if they have a disastrous season this year?
It'd have to be pretty disastrous to blow him out after 2 years. They'd have to go a comparable 4-12 to what they went last year, and then not show any signs of going forward in year 2 for them to get off him in 2. 3 is probably more like it. If they haven't reached the 500 mark and or made the playoffs by year 3, then I think they could be looking in another direction.
Jody, we appreciate the time today. Thanks so much. You were fantastic. Let's talk to you again real soon.
Done deal, guys. Anytime you need me, my pleasure. Coming on WHIP.
Thanks, Jody.
Jody McDonald. By the way, his daughter, actually, and Jody and I have been going back for years. He put me on my first radio show, actually, when I was 8 years old with Sid Rosenberg. But his daughter will be a Temple Owl next year. So it is always nice to talk some sports with Jody McDonald. We got a whole lot to do. John Clark will join us at 11:40. When we get back, we have to give a little bit more reaction to this whole Doug Collins move. Was it the right move? Do you think he should be back? What was the reason for the downfall? And we'll also get into a little bit of what the Eagles may do on draft day. We'll take a quick break, and we'll be back right after these short messages.